Hi, I'm Lori. Welcome back to Milkweeds and Roses. It's a beautiful fall day. And this time of year in a Zone 5 garden like mine, you've really got to count the blessings when you have beautiful weather like this, because you know what, it's not going to last. So, on that note, I have a lot of work to do in the garden. I don't know about you, but there are some things that it's just time to put to bed. There are some container plants that I've had all season. Some of them do have perennials, and those that I want to pull out of the containers and put them in some of the flower beds here before the hard killing frost comes, and that's supposed to be in just a matter of days here. So, like an aster, there's some geraniums, which are hardy for this area, but if you're going to keep them in containers in a Zone 5B winter, they won't make it. So they need to be in the ground in order to come back next year. So I've got some geraniums, some asters, a couple other things to pull out. There are several containers in my garden. Now, some of the dahlias I'm going to have to wait until that hard freeze comes, and then I can dig them out and lift them and store the tubers. I'll invite you along for that one. But in the meantime, still just so much work to do. There's a huge agapanthus down there. This pot, which is heavy, I just bring it into the garage, my attached garage, and just store it there for the winter. But, I got to get it out of its current spot here. There are a few other things. I'll worry about some of the other cleanup a little bit later. But in the meantime, let's see how much we can get done, okay? Work to do. Come along. Here we go. To start with, I thought I'd choose this big patio container. It has an aging tobacco plant, which is, I think, finished flowering, and a crazy gomphrena. So taking that one out, there's also a Tradescantia in there. So, boy, I'm going to have to make a note to self on the variety of that gomphrena. And then, after I cut down the tobacco plant, it was easy enough to just pull these things out because they're not rooted deeply. There is an aster in there that I want to put back in the garden bed, though. So I try to clean out as much of this patio as I can. So there's the gomphrena fireworks. That is just crazy big. And the aster I want to save is Honeysong Pink. And I know exactly where I want to put it. So along with the geranium, hardy geranium back there in the hosta bed, there's this area that gets some good sun. So I thought this would be a good place to plant that. Look at the long root system there for that hardy geranium. And they don't mind that it might be a little bit dry here. I also think the scent of these will help to mask the hostas from rabbits as they come up in the spring. So that would be good. So I thought I'd put that there, that nice pink color of the hardy geranium, as well as the aster back in there will be nice. So just tucking it back in there. It does take a hori-kori blade because the tree roots are kind of significant in this area. In addition to crabapple trees, there are mature, very large white pines on the other side of the fence. And of course, don't forget my 70-year-old maple that also has root zones that extend into this bed. So there's a lot going on here. I'm tucking it back in. And now the aster. And it's already bloomed. So once I got this tucked in, I cut down the flower spike because I care more about roots at this point than flowers. I mean, a hard freeze is coming. I do think it will still be warm enough, though, for the roots to continue to grow and spread and be protected. So I make sure that it is tucked in and mulched. And this is where I'm going to put, again, some more of some hardy geraniums and an anemone. I had some nice little bulbs in there that didn't flower too much, but I think it's because they didn't have enough room in the container. They were kind of crowded out, so I thought I'd tuck them in here, see what comes up in the spring. Isn't that color of the hostas pretty? The fall dying foliage, it is gorgeous. Now, there is a heuchera in here that I want to save. The others are just annuals, which are pretty spent by now. But digging it out, wow, again, these were all the roots are intertwined. So it's just a matter of cleaning this out. But isn't that a pretty purple color? I love that. So I definitely want to save that, and it is a perennial. As for the rest, they were easy enough to pull out, and I'll discard that into a compost pile, a compost bin. And then I will refresh this container. I will turn it upside down in the landscape beds, though, so that it won't freeze and crack over the course of the winter. But I always keep tags in my container so I can tell what variety. And this one is a keeper for sure. And this is where I'm going to put it, in the lower north damp garden. Heucheras do need more water than it got in that particular container. And remember, I have a purple heuchera, which you also know as coral bells, on the other side of this bed. So I thought this would be a nice little way to sort of flank the entrance of this new garden bed. And again, using a hori-kori knife to dig it out, because there are a lot of things going on in this particular garden bed, even though it's still really pretty moist. I'm always kind of surprised by that. So tucking it in, making sure the roots are secure, having to make it a little bit wider here than I had planned. Now the ground is still plenty warm, so there's room for the roots to take here. And we'll still get some more moisture here until we go into a hard freeze, until we get to some snow. But I think it'll be kind of nice as it comes up here. And also I plan to plant some tulips at the front of this, and once the tulip foliage fades, these heucheras will be a nice way of masking some of the foliage of the tulips in there. And yes, squirrel has buried a walnut. I wish I had a dime for all of the walnuts I find around here. But I do remember there are, a half a dozen mature black walnut trees just on the top of this retaining wall here in my neighbor's yard. They're beautiful. I wouldn't change the trees for a thing. Oh, do you see Buddy's feet go by there? Now on to some of the other plants. I did dig a echinacea out of this particular container, and there are some more little bulbs I want to save to get out. And I had used some black galvanized wire, chicken wire, to stop the squirrels and the squinnies from planting walnuts in this thing, because they do that every time. And in their enthusiasm to store walnuts in containers, they trash the plants, or they plant so many black walnuts that it's toxic to the plants growing in the container. So I know exactly where I want to put this particular variety now. And the same thing with the echinacea. Wrestling another one out of the container. Now, do you see those black discs that are on the wall? That is to keep a little airspace between the container and the cement wall that they're on the brick wall. So it helps with airflow. It helps with drainage, so that they're not just sitting in a sump of water there on top of the wall. So it doesn't look pretty from this view, but those roots are pretty healthy there. So I'm pretty confident those will come up again in the spring. So I have again another idea where I want to plant some of those things, and that's why I put them in there. So this area here on the east side of our pond actually gets a lot of sun. There are pockets of full sun that get at least 6 hours of sun. So planting shade plants there doesn't really work because they fry. But if I can get some other plants here that will handle that particular sun, like, for example, an echinacea or coneflowers, those will work. And because of the constricted area with the brick all around it, they're not going to get too crazy big and get out of control. But I thought I'd give that a try and see how that works. And this beast, remember how much I like my morning glory. It reminds me of our days on the farm, but definitely have to take this down. I can't leave that up for the season because this has like 1.5 million seeds. And there's all kinds of little seed chaff falling on my face as I'm doing this. In hindsight, I probably should have worn a hat and some sunglasses, because I tell you what, this was like itch city by the time I was done. But just have to snip, 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 and remove it from the trellis. These are robust growers, but I just love the glorious purple, the magenta flowers. And I tell you what, they can grow just about anywhere. And the thing is, once you plant a morning glory, you're going to have it for life. So you just have to be prepared for that. You'll have to watch out for seedlings. I clipped a number of these all season long, clipped the seed pods out. But after a while, it's just a job you get upside down in. So this took, oh gosh, probably 20 minutes to remove this entire trellis full of morning glory and then pick up all of the seeds that had dropped into the mulch. Still not done, of course. Then I look at some of the trellises that I have in containers to prop them up. There's my compost bag. So this trellis isn't very sturdy. It's just plastic. Frankly, it was easy to assemble and fairly inexpensive. But it was good enough for dahlias grown in a container. This is Bishop of Landolph here. So just secured it with some galvanized, with some rubber wire. So I untied it, and that was easy enough to do. I had bumblebees on this dahlia all summer long, so I was pretty pleased with it. I definitely want to save the tubers. But in the meantime, I have to take the trellis off first to make that a little bit easier to dig this one out. So it's best to wait for, when it comes to digging out dahlias, for at least one hard frost, maybe two, because that helps the goodness go back into the tubers. Now I'm walking this trellis back to the fence here. I put my pots and trellises up against the fence for the winter. I used to try to find space in the garage for all these things, the pots, and moving them back and forth and back and forth. And you know what? It's just easier to store them out in the landscape. And they'll be protected. They're, you know, especially if I have pots that I empty and store them upside down. And that was one day I was driving by my garden center, and I noticed all their ceramic pots outdoors all winter long. They just have them empty and upside down. So why am I putting mine in my garage? Gee whiz. So these annuals, easy enough to get out, but I love the mum. It's still looking glorious, so I'm going to leave it there. It's just propped up with a pot so it doesn't fall on the ground. So yeah, she's going to stay until there's a hard frost or it turns black. This was the tomato, the cherry tomato, which was abysmal. When I finally got tomatoes, then the chipmunks went after them. So yeah, I probably got I don't know, a half a dozen tomatoes, regular size and cherry tomatoes off of my plants this year, all the tomatoes that I grew in containers. And I'm just starting to think that, you know what, really tomatoes are just best grown in the landscape. They just need constant water. They need more root run and some nice air circulation, no competition. I think that's just how I'm going to have to figure out how to grow tomatoes next year, because that was a lesson. For all the time I put into it, it's just a disappointment. But that's what happens. Lessons learned. Well, I feel like I got a lot of work done. Not completely over yet. There's still the issue of fall leaves. I do have a new system now for gathering them up and making some really good leaf mold to help out with some of my pots for spring. That'll probably be in the next video. And as for some of these others, the dahlias, it does need one or possibly two good, hard killing frosts so that the plants put all that goodness back into the tubers before I harvest those out of the pots. So that part still remains, but yeah, feeling good about where we are right now. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful fall day. So I hope you get the chance to take a moment from your garden cleanup to go out and enjoy it. The seasons are fleeting. Thanks for joining me. I hope that you do subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let me know what big jobs you have to clean up your garden for fall. We're all in it together. Bye.